What if you had instant analytics on your PDP images and a faster way to create content that performs better? That's what we're diving into in today's episode, how top brands and retailers are using analytics and automation to stay ahead across retail media and the digital shelf. It's Rapid helps teams scale smarter. They analyze image performance, they help you create optimized assets for retail media networks and the digital shelf, and they integrate directly with PIM and DAM systems for seamless execution. Brands like Pepsi, Mondelez, and Instacart use its Rapid to go beyond basic tools to uncover gaps in PDP and retail media performance by analyzing the images themselves, not just the count. Streamline banner creation across hundreds of formats for Amazon Ads, Walmart Connect, and other retail and social platforms, and launch high-performing content more than 80% faster across e-commerce and marketing channels. If you're buried in manual work or struggling to keep up, this episode and It's Rapid will show you a better way. Visit itsrapid.ai to learn more.
Welcome to Beyond the Shelf with Dave Feinlieb. This show is an open exploration of the people and process behind e-commerce. Through conversations with innovators in the space, we learn the stories of these leaders and their strategies for e-commerce success. We publish new episodes every Tuesday morning, so be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And now, here's your host, Dave Feinlieb.
Welcome back to Beyond the Shelf. Today, we're joined by Mir Zaman, Vice President of Commercial Operations at Spectrum Brands. Mir brings a unique perspective to the table, having held leadership roles at Amazon before transitioning to the brand side at Spectrum. That means he's seen both sides of the digital commerce coin, from platform scalability and problem solving to product positioning and profitability. At Spectrum, Mir focuses on driving growth across a diverse portfolio in a global, often noisy digital environment. He's passionate about simplifying the e-commerce experience for consumers and unlocking strategies that go beyond just clicks, delivering long-term value through trial, repeat, and smart positioning. We're talking what it's really like moving from Amazon to brand, how to balance investment with return in today's landscape, and what commercial success looks like in a world where digital is everything. And before we get started, a shout out to our mutual friend, Jyoti Malik, for introducing us. On that note, Mir, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dave. Very nice to see you again.
Likewise, always a pleasure chatting with you. Tell us how you got your start in the space. You have such a great background and career path, but what first drew you to this part of the world?
Well, I kind of have a pretty differentiated background. So I started out in engineering. So I'm an aerospace engineer by degree. So I worked in the space program for a while, and then did my MBA. And after MBA, I was in consulting. At that time, Amazon came knocking. Like there was this role on Amazon, which I had no idea about retail at that point. But Amazon looks like they try to find people that have diverse background, not so much industry expert, but perhaps will disrupt the industry in the process. So the interview process was very interesting, and that really drew my attention to Amazon. So I took the role in Amazon. Initially had like a 1-year plan to stay there and really give it a best shot that I could. I loved it so much in terms of the leadership principles and various other ways that Amazon manages its business and how entrepreneurial it is as a company. Really, it felt like I found my home, and I stayed there almost 7 years, working in different categories, rising through the ranks there, and then moving into ads business at the end for another year and a half, and then I left Amazon, joined Spectrum Brands as a current role that I have in Spectrum. So it's kind of a happenstance, or right place at the right time. But I feel like Amazon taught me a lot of great things about the industry in consumer goods, as well as how to understand a consumer problem and work backwards from it to solve that problem and delight the consumer in the process.
I love it. First off, do you miss being a rocket scientist?
I still fondly remember some days, but it was quite sweaty sometimes when we're trying to bring the astronauts back from low Earth orbit where they might be stuck on some technical issues or whatnot. So definitely challenging, but quite exciting. So do miss it once in a while. Obviously, space is in a different place now in how it's privatized and various other things. But in general, definitely a different set of challenges, so to speak.
Part two of that, how do you apply some of your engineering background and best practices from that to your business work today?
I think it's foundational in physics and engineering is that you are objective in how you solve a problem. Objectivity is quite important. So you have to take the emotion out of it when you're actually trying to find a solution. Might not be a pretty one, but definitely that helps. But also, you should be open to change because um, in engineering, if there's a better solution that is that emerges later, you should be open to just going and applying that. you know Same thing in physics. So I think that's another thing in business that works well, that you should be open to change and open to iterations. So that I apply today even in all of my work that we do. Nothing is static, everything is dynamic, and everything is subject to change as something better emerges into the scene. So I like that.
Rules for the road right there. Now, I want to ask you about Amazon. What was it like working at the company?
It's something I did after my MBA, after
Yeah.
consulting. So I didn't, after consulting, I felt like, I had the best management training there is. But actually, I was wrong. When I showed up at Amazon, I think, the leader that I am today, I owe it to Amazon for that training, to be honest. And um, it's such a interesting place because you wouldn't think much of it. The leadership principles they have, you just words on a page, but it actually materializes very vividly when you live in Amazon, work at Amazon, and do things there. And it's applied everywhere, right? From a hiring process to how you write a document to make a business case to how you review your business weekly. You know, so it's pervasive and it works well because that's how everybody speaks to each other. So I saw real power of culture, a company culture that is run by certain ways of thinking. And I think that's very powerful because any place you show up as an operator, you need to have not only great talent in your team, but also you need to have mechanisms that can be applied in a repeated manner so that the team operationalizes things that are good for the business. So that was one of the greatest learning I probably had. And then as a business owner now, I always feel responsibility that the resources are, difficult to come by. So the resources that are given to me, are really, not something the company owes to me. It's basically earned, and I earn it through having proper ROI or proper output from those resources. So that's learned from Amazon as well, because Amazon, despite the fact this is a large company, it is quite entrepreneurial at its core. So if you look at different categories or different businesses like ads and other places in Amazon, they all operate within that entrepreneurial mindset. I think that's quite important for any big business to operate in. So that is also a good learning from there.
A lot of our customers are large CPGs, as you know. They all want to be incredibly entrepreneurial, but they're also large companies. They need to operate at scale. Any words of advice on how to maintain that entrepreneurial culture?
I think you have to constantly challenge status quo. You have to constantly challenge because when I came to CPG side of the customer side, right? So what I found is that um, there are these sometimes there the pervasive mentality where we've been doing this for a long time and it has worked. Why change? I think you should start with why change. You know, and what are the reasons you should change? Are these difficult to do, or are these non-conventional? Absolutely. you know but if you actually don't reinvent yourself or the way you do things, somebody else will disrupt you. It might be a smaller company than yours for at the beginning, but soon enough they'll be big enough to buy you out. you know so I think you need to have that mentality to go and challenge what you have. Not only that, you have to be able to experiment and fail. you know there needs to be a culture of rewarding success, but also rewarding failure, because if you haven't tested, if you haven't learned, you have no chance of success whatsoever. you know so I think that's another thing that what I found, that I'm constantly grappling with, and building a culture for at least Spectrum Brands, where we're challenging how to do things and then saying, hey, can we test it? I know you are not totally sold into this, but is it okay to test? And can we make a one-way door decision or a two-way door decision? And how do we think about those two-way door decision? Testing is a two-way door decision. So I'm testing it at a small scale. I'm failing, and then I'm learning from that, and I'm going to try again or not try because it's a no-go.
Tell us about that one-way doors and two-way doors.
Well, it's one of the ways of working in Amazon. So typically, what happens in organizations, people get bogged down when you have so many layers of approvals, and you happen to just kill an idea that's quite good through those approval process. Because as you go higher and higher in the approval process, what happens? Less and less details are considered in decision making, because people have less time in higher hierarchy, right? So usually good ideas get killed like that. So what really Amazon tries to deploy is fast decision making. How does that work? Is that if the decision can be a two-way door decision, means you do it, you test it, and it didn't work out, you come back, the price to pay is quite small. You should just go ahead and do it,
Yeah.
as opposed to waiting for all those layers to approve it. You know, and
So
then one-way door decisions,
default is try it out.
try it out. And
Yeah.
one-way door decisions are, you need to be deliberate on those are baked in, and big losses will emerge if you fail. You're still allowed to fail in one-way door decisions, by the way, but at least you need to have more deliberation. So giving that latitude and freedom to the organization and freeing them up to make decision, I think is quite important. Think about it. If somebody is an expert in SEO, you know do you want to weigh in on every keyword that they're going to bid on? No,
Yeah.
that's ridiculous. They are the one that's close to the data, and maybe you might have an opinion in broadly in how to approach it. You know,
Sure.
so I mean, obviously, this is an extreme example. It's not true in any case, but it illustrates the point that you want to give them enough freedom that they should try out approaches that works well, and then share the results with you, as opposed to you approving everything. you know so that's how we try to do it in our organization, where we talk about the one way door decisions more often, as opposed to the two-way door decisions.
This is great. Great lessons, great ways to think about making decisions. Tell us about Spectrum first, maybe a little about the company.
A Spectrum, it grew up through acquiring companies and divesting companies. So it has a lot of brands. So we operate in three different categories and businesses. So one is home and personal care, where we have household name brands like Remington, Black and Decker, Russell Hobbs in Europe. So we have a lot of kitchen brands, as well as curling iron, that sort of brands. We are big on pet. So we have pet treats and chews. We're actually leader in the treats and chews business. We also have fish food, aquariums. We make aquariums, right? And then we have Care and Cleanup, which is like Nature's Miracle is a big brand there. If you have pet messes to clean up on your carpet, Nature's Miracle is probably one of the most sought after brand there. And then in lawn and garden space, we have controls and pesticide controls as well as repellents. So we're in the lawn and garden space. We have quite a few brands like Cutter, Spectracide, and also have cleaning such as Rejuvenate, similar to Swiffer. So we're kind of all over different household essential brands. It's publicly traded, and we sell products in Europe, Asia, Latin America, and North America. So pretty much everywhere. It's grew up through distribution, so it's one of the company's strength is finding distribution in brick and mortar stores. So when I joined the company, it was kind of at the precipice of they're seeing massive amount of online or digital growth. So they wanted to put some, thoughtful approaches behind it. So I was tasked to kind of do that. So I work with our CEO David Mora very closely, and he's super interested in this space. So we often talk about how to go and do something new and brilliant in that area. So that's kind of my impetus to join this company and work with the leaders here, the business unit presidents, the CFO, you name it, all the senior leaders. We work together to drive digital growth.
This episode of Beyond the Shelf is brought to you by It's Rapid. It's Rapid is the platform Pepsi, Mondelez, Instacart, and hundreds of other leading brands and retailers use to build personalized content at scale. Whether that's images, videos, or product descriptions for their product detail pages, shoppable videos or banners for their digital ad campaigns, or sell sheets for sales enablement, brands that use It's Rapid are able to produce high-quality, on-brand content on average more than 80% faster than category competitors. To find out more, please visit itsrapid.ai.
So great. What was your biggest learning so far or biggest surprise going from the retailer side to the brand?
Very good question, Dave. I used to be the vendor manager way early in my career and preach to the brands and how to get better in their product detail pages and how easy it is and why aren't they doing it? Quite stupid, things like that. But actually, I realized that all of these cost money. They're expensive. They are weighed against other investments the brand has, and it requires tons of work. And if you really want to make an impact, you have to employ tech. And a lot of companies don't do that very well, right? Because you work with an agency or something, or it's a second degree of separation from you. So I think what I found is it's much more difficult to do, and then use that flywheel to grow. So there is a process element. There is an element of convincing others, and that was the biggest learning really coming out on the other side. Obviously, I love brands and I want to see the brands grow, but I want to make sure that also it is a sustainable approach, so it's not like just one team going rogue and doing something. It's more of a within an ecosystem.
Yeah, this is great. Now you have a lot of different brands in the portfolio. How do you set up the structure? How do you work across different brands from a digital and an operations perspective?
Yeah, this is a great question again. This we have a kind of my organization is a central organization, so we support multiple brands, multiple business units. So we try to build some processes and approaches from our centralized organization as a COE, so to speak. But then what we do is we tailor it to individual marketing organization or sales organization to make sure that we can get the best results out of the both. Because there's a tons of dependencies between the marketing team, the media team, as well as sales teams, right? And how we want to do it is be more as seamless as possible, so you don't feel like it's a central team you're working with. You're feeling like it's another team member, on your organizations. So that's kind of the goal. Obviously, sometimes it's not as simple, but we encourage that the subject matter experts decide where they want to be, and then others in their space will support to enable that goal. So we try to build joint goals. We try to also look at inputs and output metrics that actually align to those goals. So that's another thing I brought in from Amazon, is focus on inputs as much as possible and less focus on outputs, so that you can actually control the inputs. And we do it on a weekly, monthly basis, right? So that mechanism helps kind of balance the business outputs.
So it's my first day coming to work for Mir. I want to focus on inputs in my role in the org. What's a good example of how to do that, and maybe a little bit less focus? Not that the outputs aren't important, but how do I focus more on the inputs?
Yeah, so like in anything, if you're looking at, hey, am I getting the POS growth rate to the level that I had set up?
Hmm.
But the POS growth rate alone is not a good indicator for how healthy your work is, right? So your inputs need to be, is your fill rate high enough, right? Are you actually inputting enough media dollars? Given the CPCs there is that you're fighting against, are you able to invest enough to do that? And then when you're doing it, do you have the right type of keywords? Are you actually looking at consumer purchase behavior? How do they purchase your product? What's the time they consider the product, right? So you have to look at all those things and try to optimize each of those elements, as opposed to just looking at the POS, because it's great that the POS is working out today, but if you don't know why it's working, suddenly it'll be negative and you wouldn't know why, right? Even if it's positive or negative, you should be able to explain in a very tangible way through the inputs that this input change actually impacted your POS. It's not always that clean, but the rigor of how you do it actually helps you kind of have a much healthier conversation in an organizational sense, as opposed to just getting perplexed or surprised by changes that happen in the output, like a POS number you know
This is a great example. One thing you've done that I think is really unique in how your team is set up is that, if I understand it right, the team members are not only experts in their functional area, but they also understand the internal customer that they're working with, the brands that they're applying these functions to.
Yeah, I absolutely, like, during my conversation with my teams, in any interaction I have, I always first ask them, how is your business unit customer doing? How are they doing? What are their feedback about what you've done? Often it's like, it could be political, but my question is really to reveal the fact that, are you tuned into their needs? you know and then it's always not it's, the relationship should not be that I will do whatever pleases you. It's more to do with, I want to understand what is your goal, and then I will challenge you that you're not thinking the right way on your goal. And if you're not challenging, actually you're equally as bad as somebody who just who doesn't do a very good job, right? You're just as bad as that.
Hmm.
So that is actually usually a performance metrics. Is like, how often did you challenge, you know, that this particular way of thinking is not so great, or even recognizing something that is so good that you actually scaled. So the
Yeah.
scaling is another approach. Like, because we serve multiple views, multiple brands, any innovation that you bring to the table should have a scalability factor, that you're able to scale. That's more of a, tech thinking, but this tech thinking must be applied in the operating environment of a CPG.
So many great insights. I feel like you could write an entire book on your
Thank
wisdom
you.
for how to operate and so on. I have lots of other questions, but I want to ask you a couple of questions here. One is kind of innovation and looking forward, thinking about AI. How are you thinking about it, and how does it apply to the space?
I think AI is super exciting, and it is. I mean, obviously, more and more AI is being used by my organization through, especially in content space, first of all, that we started. Um, but I think AI has its place everywhere in insights organization, in places where you have to do very manual, analysis, where AI can probably do a 70% of that, in a fraction of a time. So I think the capabilities are great. But what I don't see is is an approach that can be applied to a CPG at different stages of their maturity. You know, it's like most companies, vendors will come to you to buy a point solution that has AI built in it. But AI has a like cumulative effect to an organization that is not applied typically. That's not something that's coming out. It's more like you can buy for media, or you can buy for content, or you can buy for pricing, right? But I think that's where the organizations need to unlock, you know what are their most ripe areas for them to disrupt through AI, or reduce cost through AI,
Yeah.
and then apply and find ROI there, and then convince the organization to go more broader than that.
Yeah.
That is a challenge now, because you have to show the ROI for you to actually bring that on in house, because you scale it. You know, so we have applied it, but I'm not pleased with the way we have gone about it yet. I think we need to do a lot more in that space.
More scaling and thinking about how to work with the internal customers and the external customers as well. So many great insights. I've got a few fun questions for you as part of our rapid rundown. Just your quick thoughts. First off, your favorite lesson learned from your time at Amazon.
I think the favorite lesson learned is that you should not be hindered by the current capabilities of your team. um, there was a project where I was challenged to massive goal, and on in the surface it looks like laughable, but it's just you need to be unbounded when you think about what you can do. Otherwise, you will not be able to disrupt anything. So
It's possible.
it's possible. You have
Can
to
be
try.
done. Yeah,
Can be
have
done.
to try. Love it. A product from the Spectrum portfolio you always keep at home.
It's I use the Rejuvenate cleaner, the spray. So we have the mop and the sprayer that we put on the floor. So it's great for if you have a wooden floor. It's great for cleaning the wooden floor and restoring your floor. I love that product.
Perfect. One tool or process that keeps your commercial operations machine running smoothly.
Tools. I think we're currently using PackView. It's for our retail media, and was as well as our retail e-com sales team. Fantastic product, great team at PackView. We love working with them. I think we wouldn't be able to, run our days without it. So
That's a great one. Underrated e-commerce skill more brands should value.
underrated e-commerce skill. I think I think when e-commerce people shows up with lots of data and insights, other teams get kind of perplexed that how did they have all the time to do this. But I think e-commerce people are generally wired to think data first, and then insights from data. So typically, I think that's a big confidence booster for other teams, or aspirational for other teams to use data in that sense. You know, because in e-commerce you can't go anywhere without proper insights and data that you have. So I think that's a big underrated skill. People don't realize it. They just want to think that it's just like a sales team, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Now, favorite way to unwind after a big week?
I love playing with my kids. We're outside usually, just going to the park or going for a walk. I love walking in the park. I think it's a great time for you to just listen to a podcast where Beyond the Shelf is playing, or you're just it's learning, right? You're always listening to podcasts or listening to an audiobook, and you're learning. I love that.
This is a great one. And Mir, how can our listeners reach you if they want to find you online?
I'm on LinkedIn, and always I have my contact information there as well, or you can reach out to me through email anytime.
One thing I learned from you when we were talking about doing this interview was your approach, I would say, to business and life, which is that you're always learning. Will you take a moment and tell us about that before we wrap up?
Yes, I mean, I've been a curious person throughout my life. So when I was a very young child, I watched space shuttle launching, from Kennedy Space Center, and I think I was 7, 8 years old, and I told my parents that I want to work on that airplane. I called it airplane. My dad corrected me; it was a rocket. So I grew up and then I made that dream possible. And I think I kind of the same curiosity transpires me everywhere. So I'm always reading and learning. Doesn't matter what the subject is. And I think how that translates into work. Sometimes there are unconventional ideas comes from something you've read somewhere else, and I think those are the inspirations. But it just gets me going. I'm so excited when I learn something new. So
100%.
I get a lot of enjoyment out of it, and when I see people like you as well, I can sense it that you're kind of the same way, and it makes a lot of sense because it doesn't have a monetary value or any other things, but it's more like it just makes you richer in your thoughts, I would say, you know.
Yeah. So well said. Thank you. And thank you so much for doing this and taking the time to talk with me on Beyond the Shelf. I hope you'll come back.
Thank you so much, Dave. Looking forward to it again if someday we do it again. But it's been a pleasure talking to you. You're always fun to talk to. So appreciate your time and also opportunity to talk on Beyond the Shelf.
That's it for this week's episode of Beyond the Shelf. If you enjoy the show, be sure to like, subscribe, and leave us a review. It really helps us grow. And feel free to share us with your colleagues so they too can hear weekly perspectives from the brightest minds in e-commerce. You can also check us out on LinkedIn, where we post clips from each episode, share Dave's takes on breaking industry news, and much more. Beyond the Shelf is a production of It's Rapid. Our host is Dave Feinlieb, and our producers are Sean Levy-Ashvili and Jake Musiker. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on Beyond the Shelf.